What up, Misfits? Welcome to the Misfit Heroes podcast. My name is Chris, and together we are going on a journey. Misfits, if you're new here, every episode I speak with guests that are doing extremely hard work to change the community around them for the positive. Now, oftentimes these are nonprofit or outreach executive directors who focus on causes that directly affect the community around them nearby. Tonight's guests are a little bit different. Seth and Roxanne Brown are missionaries who seek to empower and love on the people of Haiti by spreading the love and word of Jesus Christ. Their mission is helping to rebuild a broken society that has been impacted heavily by natural disasters, poverty, political tension, and hit very hard by the COVID-19 pandemic. Haiti was widely in international news media when they experienced a 7.0 earthquake in 2010, which caused an estimated 300,000 deaths and more than 1 million injuries in a country with a population of just 10 million people. In the 12 years since the earthquake, nearly 30,000 citizens have still not recovered from the disaster. Seth and Roxanne are youth pastors at Coastal Family Church in Nags, North Carolina, and I was thrilled when they agreed to sit down with me in person. We discussed their journey into missions work, what their first mission trip looked like, the bonds they've created by sharing the love of Christ, and how their work in Haiti has affected their mindsets back here in America. All right, Misfits, are you ready to change the world? Then please welcome Seth and Roxanne Brown.
Playing the Misfit Heroes podcast.
Welcome aboard the Crazy Train.
All right. Here we go.
I'm real excited to talk to you guys. You know, I enjoy that I get to sit down and meet you guys more in depth than we've met before. I'm like really excited about it too. So,
Wow.
yeah, man. So let's get started with like, how'd you guys meet? You know, tell me the story of Seth and Roxanne.
This is going to be fun because every time we tell this story, there's like a 5-second story that Roxanne tells, and I have like a deep, crazy story.
Okay.
All right. So then I'll tell the 5-second story first.
All right, go for it.
So I was 18. Seth was 19.
Yeah.
And he lived with our best friend. His name is Colin.
Mm-hmm.
And so Colin was my youth pastor. So I've known him since I was 11. And
Youth pastor's son.
Yeah, youth pastor's son. Yeah,
Okay.
son. Okay. So we've been friends forever. And so he was living with Seth.
Right.
And he was like, hey, my friends are having a party. You should come over. And I was like, okay.
Sure.
So it was Tenacious Tuesday.
Tenacious Tuesday.
Oh, yeah, dude.
Every day of the week. Every day of the week had a name.
Right.
So I went over there. Everybody was just hanging out. We went and got Mexican food, Taco Tuesday. And so we met and I thought he was cute. And so I never, he says that I never went away. But yeah, so I kept hanging out over there with my friend Colin. And one day Seth asked for my number, but he also asked if I would give him a haircut.
Oh.
I was in cosmetology
Mistake.
school. I had been in school for like 2 months. And he was like, you can cut my hair, right? And
Right.
I said, yeah, I can totally cut your hair.
Sure.
Never cut a man's hair before, ever. So he was like, if you mess up, then I get to take you on a date. So I was like,
oh, yeah.
well, I really want
set
you to
that
take
one up.
me on a date, but I don't want to mess up your hair. And so I messed it up pretty bad, actually,
Oh,
not
it
on
was jacked
purpose.
up.
And so we went on our first date.
you know, the downside to that is like if she does mess it up, like she's got to go on the date with you with the hair messed
Oh,
up.
yeah. That was my goal. I was like, maybe she won't mess it up. You know what I mean? Because we're going on a date. So that's Roxanne's side of the story. And mine's very similar. I just say a couple other funny things. So we didn't listen to country music, me and my friends. And one day she was there at one of the parties that she was talking about. And someone took the radio over and put country music on.
Oh, no.
And it was
This song was actually Wagon Wheel by
Wheel.
Old Crow Medicine Show.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was like, who put this on? Like, we listen to Akon in this house,
Right.
like T.I. And so I walked into the kitchen and Roxanne's in there, like, dance with me. And I'm like, what? All right. And I danced with her. And she told me that God told her that like I was a good person and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, Christian girl. And I grew up, and we'll probably get to that. I grew up in a Christian house. I was like, I'm not going to that. So
Yeah.
I walked away and I didn't think much about it. And she told me God told her that we were going to be together or whatever. And I was like, you're crazy.
Yeah.
That's not happening. I'm not going back to church. And some things happened a few months later. And I was like, you know what? God put this girl in my life for a reason. And I went to church with her because she said she wouldn't date me unless I went to church. So I went to church and I just dropped out of college and I was trying to figure out my life, and I had a car with no reverse.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
I was so broke.
You're going one way fast.
Oh,
right?
I was going one way.
My
man.
granddad calls him one way.
That's what yep. And so she messed up my hair, so I was allowed to take her out to eat. And I knew about this really nice restaurant in Virginia Beach. And I was like, okay, I'll take her there because on Sundays it's buy one, get one free on the meals.
Right.
But there's only specific meals you can get. So we go to the restaurant. She's like, why don't you do the valet parking? I'm like, I hate to tell you this, but we're pushing this thing out. Like it doesn't have reverse.
Yeah.
So she was like, okay. And like you would think, right? Like Roxanne, like had these expectations. I thought, as a man, you're like, oh, she has all these expectations. There's no way I'm getting a second date. Yeah. But she was just like, okay, I'll help you push the car out. And I was like,
oh, that's a keeper.
Yeah. I was like, what just happened? So we went to the dinner and I kept convincing her, like, you got to get the tortellini because it was one of the free meals.
Oh, okay.
I was like, so she didn't
know.
No,
really, you have to get
no, dude. And I went to public school. She went to private school. So I was a little intimidated. And like, she just kind of went with the flow. And then I got, she helped me push the car out. And I was like, there's something about this girl. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, why is she hanging out with me? Yeah. A Christian girl. And I knew a lot about the Bible and God, but I wasn't really serving him at the time. Yeah. And I was just like, why are you around? And then, God revealed that a couple months later, right?
Yeah.
13 years.
Awesome, man.
Since
Congratulations.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you.
So you were going to church and everything. You were saved but not living right, or you weren't saved yet?
Yeah, so I got saved I was about 7 years old. I remember sitting on the couch with my dad and having the born again experience and becoming a new person. Right. And then some things, church stuff happened. My dad was a deacon in the Baptist church. I grew up in a very strict church, like Independent Baptist. So very, very, very strict. And I hit like 15 or 14, and my dad told us we were allowed to make our own decision at that point to go to church or not. Right. So me and my brothers were like, peace. Yeah. I've been going, like, we lived in churches, and my dad, he went to Bible school for a little bit, just like started, and was planning on being a missionary with some friends of theirs. And I was like, that was kind of my passion. Like before I decided to get out of the church, I was like, I want to be a missionary. Like some kids want to be, a firefighter. Some want to be a police officer. I wanted to be a missionary. Like that's what I wanted to do as a kid. Right. But then when I hit like 15, just some things happened in the churches we were going in, and I just didn't go back. Yeah. Honestly. And then
those things are called adolescence.
Yep. Exactly. And so like she's like the story, I didn't go back. I didn't at all. I didn't even really step back in a church at all. Yeah. I didn't really go to youth group. If I did, it was like with my girlfriends, whatever. And I would go and check it out and never really dove back in, stopped reading my Bible. But I always had like that. I was explaining it to one of our youth just the other day, because now we're youth pastors. Yeah. You have that conscious, the Holy Spirit's inside you. And like, I never yielded to that, but I felt it. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I know I was saved. So some people think, did I have another born again experience? And no, I did have a revelation about 20. I was about 20. Yeah. But I knew that even through high school, when I was doing things and I was going, there was like this conscious building up inside me. Yeah. I just didn't yield to it. I just was like, I ain't listening to that. And that's the same thing I felt when I met Roxanne. I was like, yeah, I'm not going into that, man. Like, that's a good girl. I'm not going to corrupt her. Little did I know what God had in store to corrupt me. Right. Right. So yeah, I grew up a believer. My dad and parents they've been together since they were 15. Yeah. So I grew up in a great home. It's just, I just didn't go to church for a while until I was about 20. Yeah. How about you, Roxanne?
So I did grow up going to church. I got saved when I was 11. Yeah. And so I grew up going to the same church. And it was actually the same church that Seth's family went to when they lived in Suffolk. His dad was in the Navy, so they moved around a lot. Sure. So it was actually the same church that he grew up in, too. Yeah. We were just there at separate times and had completely separate friend groups. So that's how my friend Colin I was telling you about, I was friends with him like at church, but then we didn't go to the same school. So he had a separate group of friends that he hung out with too, just naturally. And so that's how we never met. But it's really funny. So my first missions trips that I went on, I went to Ecuador when I was 15. And then Dominican Republic, I went my junior and senior year in high school. Yeah. But it's funny because his parents had thought about doing missions, and the missionary family that they knew in Dominican Republic is actually the one that I went to Dominican Republic with.
Oh, that's a small
Yeah.
world.
So, and we didn't really even figure that out until a couple years ago. We were like, wait a second.
Like,
Right.
That's the same people that I was with.
yeah. So God had a plan for us to meet either way.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
We were destined.
Well, that's awesome, man. So how did so you guys have both, it seems like, been like missionary minded, from the start, is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So how did Haiti come about?
Okay, so I so I took dance my whole life from the time I was 3 until I was 28.
Yeah.
And I was working and taking classes at a studio in Suffolk, Virginia called Orphanages.
Okay.
And so one of the students at that studio, her parents are Chris and Christina Serber, and they have Supply and Multiply, which is a nonprofit organization is who we go to Haiti with.
Okay.
So the dance studio was bringing together a group to take to Haiti with them.
Sure.
So I was going to go and be one of the chaperones too. So, and we had also always talked about going on a mission trip together, but we didn't know how to go on one together because in high school I went with my youth group. So like, who do we go on a mission trip with? Where do we go?
Right.
So that opportunity came up and Seth was like, no, I'm not going.
Nope.
And I was like, just come to the information meeting. Like, just because you come to the meeting doesn't mean that, you're signed up. You have to go.
Right.
So I'll let him tell that part of the story in a minute. But so that's how we found out about Haiti. And so we did go. Our first trip was in July of 2018.
Okay.
And we went and it rocked our world in a great way.
Yeah.
And now we're like, want to go all the time.
Yeah. So my funny story behind that is I kind of explained in my salvation story and how I was moving forward. And at 20, I started getting back in church, and we shout out to Pastor Matt. I'm going to tell him about this podcast. He's going to listen to it. But Pastor Matt, who's married us, and he started a church called 3 in 1.
Mm-hmm.
And it was such a good church. It's a lot like Coastal.
Right. And
me and Roxanne were the young couple, and just like, I don't know. I was like, I don't really know how to get in, whatever. And Pastor Matt just was like, just pray about it. And about, it took me about 5 years. And about 25, I was in prayer one night, just had a Holy Spirit movement saying, hey, like, I got a big plan for you. You need to get, and I was really overweight at the time. I know that's funny, but
right.
I was working for the government, so I was eating good and traveling around.
Been there.
And so God told me, the Holy Spirit just told me, like, you need to get your body, mind, and soul right. You need to learn the word. You need to get your body prepared to go. And I'm like, go where? You know what I mean? And you just need to get your mind right, like mind wrapped around missions. And I was like, specifically missions. And I was like, I don't want to be a missionary.
Yeah.
I don't even really have a calling. I was already traveling. I didn't really want to go to other countries and spread the gospel.
Right.
I had more of a mindset of like in town gospel spreading. And but he was like, no, I just felt God was telling me you're going to go be a missionary. And I was like, I don't know. I'm not going to paint houses. Like, you know what I mean? Like every missions thing I hear
That's
of
very specific.
It was every mission thing I've ever heard of is like, you go paint a house. I'm like, well, then you're just taking jobs away from the people that live there. Like, they need jobs. Why would I go to a different country and paint a house? And Roxanne tells me about taking 20 girls to Haiti. And I'm like, I'm out. I am not going. She's like, just come to the thing. And I was working that morning, and I was like, okay, I'll go. I got off work and just went and met this guy named Chris Serber. And the first thing, we sit down and he looks at all of us and he goes, this isn't going to be your normal mission trip. And I'm like, who is this guy? And he was like, we ain't painting any houses. We're not taking an Instagram picture. We're going to show God. We're going to go show the love of Christ. Yeah. And I was like literally like taken
Sold.
back. Yeah. I was like, who is this guy and how do I get to know him? Right. You know what I mean? That was my first, and I literally, 2 weeks before this is when I had that prayer moment, a couple years before. It was a couple years, sorry. But like, it was like, oh man, like, who's this guy? Like, that God put in my life. So that day I talked to Chris and he was like, yeah, man, Haiti's not that. Like, we're not going to paint. Like, if we need a painting, we're going to hire Haitians. Maybe we help them, but we're going to hire a crew. And I'm like, okay, like, I'm very interested now. So we signed up. When we went and we went all in. We started like, I don't know, trying to figure out how to deal with 20 girls in a third world country.
Right.
Went to all the meetings. And then the night before we were supposed to leave, can I tell the story? Get the permission. But the night before we were about to leave, Chris is like, we take a picture together packing up
Yeah.
and we're like ready to go and send it out to the group chat, you know,
Yeah.
like all these girls and stuff. And Chris calls and he's like, are you guys still going? Yeah. Like, what do you mean? We were leaving in like 4 hours. What are you talking about? And he's like, everyone just backed out. The whole crew, the whole team just backed out. You know, we'll get into Haiti a little bit more, but he was like, the whole team just backed out. Like, I don't know what to do. Like, you know, are you guys still going to go? We like, I'm going. And I'm like, yeah, we're still going. You know, we're going to follow God's calling on our life. Because it wasn't, we could get into that a little bit, but like missions, you know, even if you're going for a short trip, don't just go because it sounds fun.
Yeah.
You know, go because it's a calling. Because if you go because it sounds fun, when things come up, you'll let fear take over. Oh, yeah. Because it's not a calling of yours. And I was like, Chris, this is a calling. Like, God told us this was going to happen. If it's with or without you, we're going to go somewhere. Yeah. And so we went that morning without the whole team. Yeah. Just Roxanne and I and two other people jumped on board just because it was free pretty much. And they went. And like Roxanne said, that was the beginning and the end. That was it. Haiti rocked our world. Yeah. Gave us a whole nother perspective of love, Christ love, what it looks like in a third world country to serve God, serve the same God we serve here. And we haven't been the same since.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's amazing how God will make a way with these things too. You know, like I don't mean to interject my own story, but I'm going to do it anyway.
No, go ahead.
So we went on a missions trip through Coastal a couple of years ago, and we went down. It was me and Steve Garza. Shout out to Steve Garza, David Pennington, and Brent Jones, and we went down to Florida after a hurricane. Okay, and like we weren't supposed to go to Florida. We were supposed to go to Texas. And through Samaritan's Purse, the organization that we went for, they said, actually, we need people down here in Florida. We've got plenty of people in Texas right now because it's all over the news. But we had a hurricane a couple of weeks ago in Florida, and like people came, and now they're like dipping out, and we don't have a lot of people. So we go down there, and like all these things that were like we weren't supposed to have happen, like they just it's like you could see where the plane was like, you know, being made for you. Yeah. Right. And there was one day we didn't have any tools, and then all of a sudden the neighbor shows up and he's like, oh, you guys want to use my weed eater and like all this stuff. And like, you know, it was crazy how I started seeing all these things. And then finally it all ended up with this woman. She had the roof off of her house. So for like 3 weeks, she's been living in this house with no roof. Wow. So if it rains, I mean, it's got to rain in 3 weeks. It's going to rain, you know? Yeah. And she just broke down and she was saved. And it was an old woman in her, like, I want to say like in her 70s. And she was like, you know, like getting to pray with her. And it was like the whole time I was like, man, they just brought me down here and I'm moving drywall back and forth. I don't have any skills. Like I got nothing, you know? Yeah. And then the last day, like to see that and like the impact that it had on that lady and her life changed. You literally get to see it. That's like the crazy thing about missions. And I'm sure like, that's in Naples, Florida, which it's like in Naples, Florida, they have like, you know, very rich housing and very poor housing. In Haiti, it's got to be not very much rich housing.
No.
Yeah, right. So, I mean, what was that like for you guys down there? I mean, tell me about your experience, your first experience. Like, what happens when you get off the plane? Man. Paint the picture for us.
Okay, so you get off the plane, and the airport's crazy. So you get off, and they're playing like I don't know, I call them like the tropical music, like the typical like Caribbean kind of music. And so it's like loud, it's exciting. And then you get out of the airport and it is wild. Like there's people everywhere. People are trying to help you carry your luggage but it's not for free.
Right.
So it's like you have to be like, okay, they're trying to get your bag, but not because they're trying to be helpful. They want to make a couple dollars.
Right.
So, you know, Chris is like, okay, like don't talk to anybody. Like we have our people, like just you want to get out of the airport. So we're like, okay, so that was fun. Like that was chaotic. So our first trip.
Oh man.
So we left the airport, stopped at a store and grabbed some stuff for lunch. And we had to go wait at the bus stop for like an hour, we were thinking, because the other team that we were going with, they had been there all summer. So they just took a couple days in Dominican Republic. So they were riding a charter bus back. And we were all going to drive to where we stay together in Haiti, which is about 2 hours away.
Right.
So we were supposed to wait there for like an hour. Like, no big deal. They'll be here soon. It's like 4 hours.
Oh, yeah.
And so they get there and there's 2 cars.
Right.
So there is a Dodge Dakota truck
Yeah.
that they've put like a cattle car kind of thing in the back that we all sit in.
Right.
And then there's a Suzuki something, like those cars from the nights are like a tracker.
Yeah.
So it's that.
Yeah.
So then, and there's like 20, 25 people.
Pile in.
And all of our luggage.
In.
And so Seth and I are looking at it like,
how this isn't going to happen.
Like, is there like another car is coming, or what? So we all squeezed in there. I mean, we're sitting on top of each other, on top of luggage, on top of the truck, and we're like, "Oh my gosh, this is so fun!" And Seth is looking at me the whole time, like, "I cannot believe you
just
talked me into doing this." Yeah, where I'm like, "Oh my gosh, this is so cool!" So we got to, so it's called the Fish House, is where we stay. We stay in a fishing village, so they just call it the Fish House.
Right.
And so we get there and it's dark. And so Seth is like, I don't know where I am. Like, I don't even know if something were to happen. I don't know how to call anybody. I don't know where I'm at. It's dark. And I'm like, it's going to be fine.
Yeah.
So, that was day one.
Okay.
So
she's missing a little part because, like I said, the whole team just backed out. And there's reasons why they backed out.
Oh,
I mean,
I was going to ask.
So I mean, there was like a lot of riots that week and a lot of things going on with the government. So usually they put roadblocks, and in Haiti, that's how they get the government to move. Like, you don't get the government to move by go talking to them at Parliament or whatever. You get it by blocking the roads. There's one highway. So you block the roads.
Guerrilla.
The whole country stops. You know what I mean? So that's why they gas prices were insane.
Yeah.
And in Haiti, they're always insane. But at that moment,
it was like $20
the government
a gallon.
they can't tax anything mostly in Haiti, so they tax the gases.
Oh, wow.
And it was like $20 a gallon. So the people rioted and caught one of the gas stations on fire right by the airport.
Oh, wow.
So that's why everyone backed out, which if you're going to go to Haiti, anybody out there, these things happen. It is a part of their culture. It doesn't mean that you're necessarily in danger. We had to find that out, but so I'm already in the mindset, like, how do I protect my wife? And then she tells that story and I'm like, okay, it's dark. I have no idea where I'm at. I just drove 2 hours in pitch black because there's no electricity. You know what I mean? And I'm like, where are we? And we get off there and everyone's like so happy to see us. I'm like, I don't know you people. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know anybody here. I don't even know the people we came with. And so that was our first night in Haiti. I was like, I'm never sleeping again. I'm just kidding. But yeah, I mean, it went from there. Kind of like you were just talking about, like, steps. God just started revealing himself. Yeah. Every step we took, like, the Bible verse that you love, blessed are the people that spread the gospel. Blessed are the steps that spread the gospel. Yeah. And that's literally it. That's what you were going through as well. Just that Bible. You were walking out that Bible verse. You were being blessed, not because you did anything, just because you took the step of faith. Yeah. I preach that to our youth. It's like, it's not the big steps. You think of everyone that takes those big steps, and you're like, oh, cool, look at the guy on TV. No, it's that one step of faith to go to Florida, even though you weren't supposed to, or go to Haiti in the pitch black and, like, I have no idea where I'm at. But you
idea.
Yeah, exactly, just put your faith in Christ, and he'll reveal it. He'll bless you and bless the people around you. And we've seen all kinds of stuff, like you were just talking about in Haiti. From our first trip to the last one we were just on a couple months ago.
So how many trips have y'all been on?
5. Yeah. We went on our 5th one in February.
Awesome.
Yep.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love your guys' heart behind it. I can tell that you're like, it's like your thing.
It definitely is.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, what is the saying that we need Haiti more than Haiti needs us?
Yeah, that's actually what
She's
shirt
wearing
I
the
have
shirt.
on.
Oh, are you serious?
I need Haiti more than Haiti needs me.
Yeah. Yeah, we long for it. It's a definitely, if you're around us more than 5 minutes, it's our heart.
Yeah,
our heart is in Haiti. It is what it is. The country is broke. It's beautifully broken, is how I explain it. Just because it looks different than this country doesn't mean it's not right. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
there's a lot.
Sure.
I mean, there's wrongs with this country and there's a lot of wrong with that country. But when I'm there, I'm whole.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, 100%.
It's definitely God has put it on our heart. And even like last summer, we went to Kenya. I wanted to try something different. And I was like, maybe Haiti isn't it. Like, let's just not put all our eggs in one basket quite yet. We're still trying to walk this out. And we came back and I was like, let's not think about Haiti the whole time we're there. Like, we agreed. Yeah. Let's just enjoy it. And man, I enjoyed Kenya. Like, I really did. The country's beautiful and the people are amazing. And we were back for a week. We didn't even talk about it. And we both just like broke down and we're like, it's Haiti. It's Haiti. We just there's something about that, the people there and the country that just, you fall in love with it.
Yeah.
And it's hard to not think about it daily, every day, every second. And so one day we believe God's calling us to be missionaries. They're full-time missionaries. We're just walking that out right now.
Yeah.
It starts with something like, that's why I come up and just talk about Haiti, because a lot of people see a bad light when they see Haiti, especially in the Western, it's the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere.
Yeah.
So people look at it as a bad thing, or look like, how can we fix it? How can we do this? Well, I'm here to tell you, look at it as it's beautifully broken. Just because it's not our society or our country, or, yes, their president just got assassinated and different things have happened. They're beautiful people in a beautiful country.
Yeah.
And we're not going there to change it. You know what I mean? I'm not going to go there and change every Haitian in the fishing village. We're going to go and show the love of Christ. We're going to go hold a kid's hand.
Yeah.
We're going to go give elderly food, because that's what, we're going to go help the widows.
Yeah.
That's what the Bible calls us to do, not to go and change a country.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure, man. I think it's super impressive. We were talking a while back, just in passing about it, and I could tell that your passion for it. You had it's clear that you guys have created some relationships with the people down there, and you have this sort of unreal non-family bond. You know what I mean? I could tell that it came across in what you were saying. Yeah, I mean, Haiti's kind of crazy, because I was doing a little research about it the other day. Because honestly, I know, right? I know. Don't get me on Google.
Yeah,
right?
man.
Yeah.
But I mean, the only thing I've really heard about Haiti, aside from it's tropical. I had some friends that lived in the DR in Dominican Republic, and they were like, yeah, we don't really go to Haiti. They lived there for a year. Yeah, we don't really go there. It's not, but. I remember, I think in 2010 was when they had the earthquake.
Yep.
I was reading that they still have a large portion of their population in 2022 that hasn't recovered from that earthquake.
Yeah.
That's insane. I feel like if that happened here 12 years later, think about Hurricane Katrina, and if people hadn't, I don't think many people have fully recovered from that, but if they hadn't recovered at all,
right. Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, the Orphanages is the first place I'll go.
Yeah.
I mean, and we'll have some Haitian friends probably listen to this podcast and stuff, and they'll tell you. I'm not going to say anything that they wouldn't say. I mean, a lot of them, they just got put in orphanages and taken away from their family, and not just because they couldn't find them, right? And who knows?
Yeah.
Is there parents out there? We don't know. A lot of missionaries came in and thought they were doing the right things and started these orphanages, and the funding in Haiti at the time was insane.
Yeah.
I mean, go fund Haiti. It was everywhere. Tom Cruise was on TV telling people to fund Haiti, go fund Haiti, go fund Haiti.
Right.
Well, what did that do? What it actually was accomplished. So there you go. Right. It's been how long? What did it accomplish? Well, we still see, street kids that are now they're becoming a little more older, but they were affected by that, and can't find their families, or are just told they're deceased. But the country was pretty much torn apart. So there's still a lot of effect on that. And it's spiritually too. It broke them. Yeah. You know what I mean? When you bury, how many people was it?
Oh
I can't remember the number right off the top of my head, but when you bury that many people in a day,
I was seeing something like 30,000 people displaced. Yeah, that's
and
that's
it was
insane.
Yeah,
I believe I don't want to say the numbers, I don't remember it off the top of my head, but there's a seminary we passed just that they mass buried people, and that weighs on you spiritually. As a country, as a community, it's only a country of 10 million people in a very small area.
Yeah,
so it's 10 million people on top of each other, so they know a lot of people, and we still see it in the orphanages, is where my heart goes immediately when I think about the earthquake. And family members just split up. But the infrastructure too. I mean, you'll still see houses that never been rebuilt or things that have happened, but a lot of missionaries came in and tried to do the right thing, and some of them did and some of them didn't. And you see that, you really do. I mean, I won't call out certain names, but even in our town that we go to called Montrouis, there's a famous person built this nice thing, this super nice building, and I've never seen it open.
Oh, wow.
You know what I mean? Yeah. And I'm not going to put his name out there, but it's just okay, that was a good idea, but what's the fruit of that? Where did that come from? It was just go fund Haiti, and now what? Yeah. And so it did, man. And there's a lot of things there, a lot of different things. I don't really get into politics, but a lot of things what our president did at the time, putting rice in the country, U.S. rice. Sounds great, right?
Yeah.
Like, hey, give them rice and they'll figure it out. Well, the country was like, okay, well, if you're going to give me free rice or cheap rice, why would I go have farms? Why would I go farm this rice? Right. So like the farming of rice after the earthquake has gone down like 80%.
Oh, wow.
Because and we still give them rice. So when we eat rice there, it says on the bag, U.S. rice. And you're like, wow, like, no, like, let's equip them to get back into their rice fields and stuff like that. And that just hasn't happened yet.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, exports and stuff and imports are important there. And that's why it's a different country, because there's not a lot of, food available from them. You know what I mean? From their country. So it does make it difficult. The earthquake was rough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It amazes me, like, you hear all the stories of the things that are going on. And like this week, like, all I ever hear anybody talking about this week is Will Smith smacking Chris Rock.
Oh my gosh.
That's all I hear about, right?
Oh yeah.
And I'm sitting there and I'm like, for all the news stories that are on that, and I go back to what we were just talking about it's been 12 years and people still haven't rebuilt their lives. It's like, where are our priorities?
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Hey man, you're speaking my language now.
Oh,
yeah.
I mean, we're called from the Great Commission to go throughout the world, spread the gospel, baptizing, helping the widows, helping the orphans, helping the poor.
Yeah.
That's one of the ones on the list. I feel like we forget that one.
Yeah.
And, we'll focus on these things here, which is fine. I'm down with that. I mean, I'm a youth pastor in America, so
yeah,
I obviously have a heart here too.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, we do. And that influences them too. Like our friend Dave just posted, our Haitian friend Dave, about the slapping. Did you see the post?
Yeah.
That was so funny. And so they're influenced by this stuff too, that you put on social media. That's why Roxanne and I are very careful what we put.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But we influence Haiti a lot as Americans, even though we don't know we're doing it.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's interesting.
Yeah.
It's hard to like live the both worlds, and they collide often.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
so with the missions, things like that, do you guys do like any projects or anything? Or what, I mean, is it specifically evangelizing, or what exactly, what's your focus on when you go on these trips?
Okay. So usually when you go on a trip, so Supply and Multiply, they have a couple of different things that they help out with. So they have the Matthew 25 house.
Okay.
And that is a home for the elderly. Mm-hmm. So there's not a lot of elderly care in Haiti. So a lot of the time people have to choose, am I going to feed my child or am I going to feed my elderly mother?
Right.
And you may not have money to do both. So you're going to feed your child.
Yeah.
So there's not nursing homes, there's not hospice, stuff like that. So they have built a house and they have, I think it's 11 elderly that live in there. So they hire Haitian staff to come and cook and clean and help them with any medication they're on, take them to the hospital if they need it. They sometimes have physical therapists come in and work with them. So we always go and visit them. So they love for you to read the Bible to them. It doesn't matter what it is. You could just open it, pick a page and read it, and they would love it and listen to it all day long. And there's one little guy, his name is Etienne, and he is the cutest thing. Oh my gosh. He loves to dance. So, we'll read to him and then I'll say, Etienne, sing a song for me. And he'll sing up and dance. It's just awesome. So they also have different school sponsorships. So you can sponsor a child to, go to school. There's no public schools. They're all private. So you have to pay to go to school. You have to pay for your books, your uniform. So that's really the only way that you go to school is if you pay for it.
Right.
So we always go and see our school sponsor kids. They're usually in the village that we stay in. So they always, go around and see them. But we also go and do different Bible clubs. So we call them jam clubs. So it's Jesus and me.
Okay.
And in Creole, it's Jay-Z Amwen.
Yeah.
And so we do jam clubs. So we have them where we stay. We open it up to all the kids in the village. So the way that we start that to tell them that we're there, we just blast really loud, fun music, and we open.
And it's like, come.
Yes. We open the gates, and they just flood on in. So they come in. Awesome. We usually will do like a song or two with them, and then somebody will give a Bible lesson, and then usually a craft that goes with it, or just a craft. And then we always make sure that they have clean water and a snack before they leave.
Right.
But it's so much fun to see them come because then, I mean, they don't go anywhere. So you get to see them every single time that you come.
Yeah.
So, you start to build a relationship with those kids. You recognize them, you remember their names. And now having gone so many times over the past 4 years, it's like, oh my gosh, you've gotten so big. Like, how did you get this grown up? So we go and do that, but there's also a place called Ann's. We call it Ann's, but it's actually called God's Children Haiti. And it's a home for children with special needs. They do have some kids that are not special needs. But that's mostly, who she has there. Yeah. And, gosh, we just love to go there. They love to play soccer. Awesome. So they have a big open area for soccer. So we always take soccer balls. She has a basketball court. They love to play basketball.
Yeah.
So we always do the same thing, like songs, lessons, and crafts with them. And they love to just be loved on.
Of course.
So even just going and letting them sit in your lap and just hug on for them, they love that.
Yeah.
So we always go there multiple times when we're there.
It's my favorite place in the world.
Oh, yeah. I bet.
It is my favorite place in the world.
Now, you guys said you just went. Did you say you just got back in
February? Yeah.
February. So we just went through a pandemic. How did that affect them down there? I mean, is it harder in a third world country? I'm assuming.
I mean,
did you guys have to go on a journey with it? I mean, I'm sure.
So we've been to Haiti twice with the pandemic going on, and we went to Kenya with it going on.
Yeah.
So we didn't really slow down, but it affected Haiti. I mean, Roxanne asked me to take this question. She's like, she gave me the eyes. So, I mean, it's a third world country, and they're getting a lot of their resources from America. And usually, when something comes through Haiti, like a disease or a virus, or maybe just a fever, they're used to pretty harsh conditions. There is hospitals, but they're all like mission ran.
Right.
So if you don't have money, you're not getting in. So it's not like we just had a kid when we were there getting a motor accident, and like you're not walking through the door without clothes on, collared shirt, and money. They won't even let you in. So it's it's kind of interesting. So with COVID, when it first hit, we were all very in like panic mode. Like how can we make sure they have the right care? At least they have ibuprofen in case they get fevers.
Yeah.
And a lot of our Haitian friends were expecting, honestly, this is terrible, but one said this, like bodies in the street, and that just never happened.
Yeah.
So it's crazy. Like the actual people that got COVID in Haiti, one, they don't really have hospitals. It's not like they have testing going on, but there's nothing really happened. Like, maybe a sickness ran through like the orphanage.
Yeah.
But it was, nothing bad, nothing crazy. I haven't heard like one story of like wiping out anybody, and that's what they were expecting. So it affected them really bad. And I'm going to say this, and it's a harsh statement, but I'm going to say because it's my heart. But last time we were there, just a few months ago, I was trying to figure out where all the missionaries were. Because usually when you go to Haiti, there's missionaries.
Yeah.
Well, the biggest impact that the pandemic had on Haiti is 88% of missionaries have pulled out.
Wow.
Pulled out of Haiti. So, I got a lot to say about that.
Yeah.
But I would say that.
Well, you've got the platform.
I mean, I just, we walk by faith. You know what I mean? And we don't walk by a pandemic, and we don't walk by what the world's telling us to do. But, a lot of missionaries, and Haiti's a rough country. And if it was going to be that bad, you didn't really want to be there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there was no medical care, but where are you now?
Yeah.
I'm not blaming for the walking away for a couple months or whatever, but we had people on the ground the day Haiti opened back up.
Yeah.
The day our group of guys, there's like a core group, and we've been, adopted into that group. And we had like 6 core people the day Haiti opened up walking into the country.
Wow.
And there's just no missionaries there right now. It's very sad. So a lot of kind of I was talking about with the earthquake where people, that was great. They did all this stuff, and then now they're gone.
Yeah.
Well, same thing with the pandemic, and we're just praying. We're in faith that they come back.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So now we have schools that aren't maybe getting as funded as well. We have missionary housing that's just gone. Like people, no missionaries were there. I think we saw one, a guy from Canada.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he runs the airports, the dirt airplanes. He makes sure they're clean and stuff. So, because we took a missionary airplane there.
Yeah.
And that was the only one we saw. And normally when you're in Haiti, hundreds.
Wow.
You know what I mean? Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. And it's a mission ran country. I call it. Like it's not, but the school, like she said, all the schools are private. So that means they're mission ran. They're all missionary schools that are funded by somebody in the States or France or Canada. And, nobody was there. So that would, if you ask me what my biggest impact was, is where's the missionaries?
Yeah.
They left them to their own demise, and there's no time frame of when they're coming back. Like, we'll ask Haitians and stuff, and just nothing.
Yeah.
So we do know Anne is on the ground right now, and that runs Anne's orphanage, and she's been there since they pretty much opened back up. She's been killing it. But so it's kind of sad. It's kind of crazy to see. The first few times we went, it's just all these missionaries, and there's just nobody. So it's been a big impact.
I've spoken to a couple people in other countries for the podcast, and it's been interesting to hear their interactions with the pandemic. Like, I spoke with someone in Australia, and I mean, it was like nothing. Like, she was like, I don't know what's going on with you people in the United States. And she's like, but I mean, she's like, it was like, I think they did finally lock down for like a week after a while, but she's like, yeah, that was it. Now, I mean, but you're saying the impact as far as the actual COVID virus wasn't like as bad there.
Well, we don't know any. Well, like I said, it's not like there's tests to take everywhere, but we don't know anybody that fell ill or died or anything. Like, the Haitian people they're strong people.
Yeah,
you know what I mean, and their immune system is pretty strong. But the fear of that coming in, I mean, it was astronomical. You know what I mean? When you have the United States is shutting down, imagine how they felt.
Right.
There's a small little country with no medical. So, they were freaking out, and it just never came.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, I'm sure COVID's gone through some places, but no one's been really sick. And it was really hard on them. You know what I mean? Like, their country never really shut down, and everyone just kept doing their thing. But just the impact that the missionaries have there is great anyways. You know what I mean? And like, for no one to be there, it's tough. It's tough. Some people didn't get food for months.
Oh, wow.
And little things. Luckily, like I said, where we go with, and this is one of the reasons I love Supply and Multiply. But the people we go with, the missionaries we go with, is because it's 100% Haitian ran.
Okay.
So we are one of the only missionaries that I know that do that in Haiti. And I mean, I'm sure there's others, but there's not one American that's paid.
Right.
So what that means is when the pandemic happened, we just kept going.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Gary, the director, he's a Haitian man. He just kept doing what he normally does, feeding the poor, taking care of the elderly, doing jam club, helping Ben with the youth group. Nothing really changed for them because we already had the thing, it was already established that way. He runs, that mission group every day anyways.
Right.
So for us not to be on the ground, yes, it hurt for that couple months. Like I said, our people were there the day it opened back up, but he really just ran it. You know what I mean? We just made sure Western Union had money.
Yeah.
He could get money. As long as Haiti banks had money, he was going to get it.
Yeah.
And so that was really nice. A lot of, organizations didn't have that established. It was, we're the missionaries. Well, Gary took care of all that. So, but yeah.
So how do you guys fund this whole thing? I mean, like, how does this, is it all out of pocket for y'all, or what's sort of, how does that, how can people help with that? You know what I mean?
Well, Roxanne and I personally are part-time missionaries, full-time fundraisers.
Oh yeah, there we go. There we go.
We fundraise all year. From as simple as people donate a nightstand and we sell it on Facebook.
Right.
When we put it all to missions, or our church, Roxanne runs an ice cream shop, and all of our tips go to missions. So we are self-funded. We have been for 4 years, right?
Yeah, we get creative.
Yeah.
We did a polar plunge one year. Not doing that again.
Yeah. So we'll come up with any extravagant way to get funded for us personally. But Supply and Multiply is an organization that we stand behind 100%. And you can find them online or anything like that, or Facebook. They have all the credentials and stuff like that, and we help support them as well.
Okay. Well, I'll make sure to put links and all that stuff down. If you give me any of that stuff,
Yeah.
I'll put it down in the show notes and everything. Everybody can check it out. But yeah, I mean, that's crazy that it's sort of out of your own heart.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people wouldn't do that. I think that's part of that 88%, right?
Yeah, a lot of people think we're crazy because, that's pretty much. And I always joke with people, and I'm not bragging on my wife, but every time we get an extra couple bucks, I'm like, "Oh, sweet, we got money back on our taxes." She's like, "Okay, we're going to Haiti this day," and I'm like, all right.
Yeah.
It's like, we're not using it. That's not to brag or anything. It's just, that's our heart, so whenever we could get back there, whatever it takes. So
yeah,
we really do fundraise all year.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, do you guys have like a GoFundMe or any way that people can like donate to you or anything like that? Or
Nope.
It's like, that's a good idea. We should do that.
I know. But it's what's funny is like we've never like gone on a trip and been like, oh my gosh, like we don't have the money to do it. Like always, God always shows up every single time.
Yeah. I'll tell this one
really
story
cool.
because I know my brother won't care. Will he? Should I not tell it? Well,
you can't
started now.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll say it.
The torpedo's in the water, buddy.
Whatever. Maybe I'll make him move. No, I'm just kidding. So one year we were about to go to Haiti or one trip, and we were $500 short. Yeah, and we were leaving in like a week. Mm-hmm. $500 exactly, and I was like, I don't know, we'll just start praying about it. I can't do any more fundraising,
right?
So we were just like, we'll just pray about it, and I started praying, and I was painting a house at the time. I got a phone call from my brother in California, and he's like, and my brother's not a believer, right? Like he's a claimed atheist, so and he could claim that, but we're working on him,
right?
And so pray for Josh. No, I'm just kidding.
Hashtag pray for Josh.
Hashtag pray for Josh. So he just called me one day, and it's a running joke in our house, and he said, hey man, I just felt like this trip will be really good for you guys, and you guys will learn a lot, and I'm just going to give you $500. And I was like, okay.
Yeah.
And I always I tell my youth and stuff like that, like, if you're going to spread the gospel, God will even use the devil to send you.
Oh my God.
I love you, Josh.
Yeah. I was going to say, Josh, you're not the devil.
No.
I was going to say, God made a way.
Yeah, and he did. He opened up a door, and that trip, it was exactly what we needed, and I believe that's a God movement.
Exactly. I was literally just thinking that, Josh, if you're out there, God's working on you right now, bro.
That's right.
Listen to your boy.
Yeah. Yeah. So we've never lacked. I'll tell you that. I've never. We've always been very blessed, and I always just trusted God with the financial part. We haven't hit the part where we're out there.
Yeah.
With the GoFundMe's, and a lot of people are trying to get us to start a nonprofit, which is why I listen to a lot of your podcasts, because we're almost there. And we're just trying to navigate that and pray about it. Yeah. Because a lot of people in our church even will be like, hey, where can I help support? And I'm like, well, I'm not really even sure yet.
Just give me money.
Yeah. I mean, I told Roxanne, I think the year we went to Kenya, we fundraised like $4,000. I said, well, if we put $4,000 in our bank account, the government's going to find us.
Yeah. I mean, that's a thing.
Oh,
that's a thing. I'm learning all about that, unfortunately. But yeah, I mean, well, we can talk offline. I mean, I can definitely, I can get you some info about some stuff that I've been learning about too. That's the cool thing about this, is it's been like a learning process too. Like if you would ask me 2 years ago, like if I was gonna start a nonprofit, like nah, right. Nah, I just want to talk to people on microphones. Like that's it. but yeah, I mean it's a journey, and it's so crazy that I speak to people that have that are believers, that are non-believers, all different types of people.
Right.
And it's very interesting going back to talking about like how God makes a way in people's lives. I mean, my favorite part about this podcast, it's not about the things that people do. Like there's all these different causes that I speak to people about and everything like that. But whether they're a believer or non-believer, just like we were talking about, Josh was his name. Yeah. So just like we were talking about that, it's like I get to see like the little nuggets, the little like sprinkles, and it's like, oh, I see what you're doing there, buddy. But it's literally it's like live. It's like live interpretation of scripture.
Yeah. Oh, that's good.
Do you guys have like a scripture that's, for the ministry?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So it's like every time I go on a trip, I have a verse and I have a song. So this past trip was Build Your Church.
Okay.
That was my song.
Yeah.
So this is my verse. It's Romans 10 and it's verse 14 and 15. But how can they call on him to save them unless they believe in him? And how can they believe in him if they have never heard about him? And how can they hear about him unless someone tells them?
Yeah.
And how will anyone go and tell them without being sent? That is why the scriptures say, how beautiful are the feet of the messengers who bring good news.
Amen.
So I love that.
Yeah,
Like,
it's perfect.
How are you going to get there unless he sends you? And how's he going to send you unless you believe in him? Like,
Yeah.
it keeps going and going.
Yeah. I have a lot of verses, but I really have a statement I'd like to say.
Yeah.
So about 3 years ago, after I went to Haiti for the first time and I came back, I got into prayer. Like, God, these are believers. Like, they're the same. They're the same children, under you as we are. Like, why are they living a different life? Like, because the prosperity gospel is huge and and we could keep going about American churches and this and that. And I was like, but they believe the same God we do. Right. The thing about Haiti, it's what do they say? It's 85% Christian and 100%. I won't say that part, but it's 85% Christian, and a lot of these guys are Christians and know the Word and know the Bible, and like people are like, well, but they live a different life, like I said at the very beginning, and I really struggled with that. So I went to God in prayer and stuff like, hey, how do I move forward now?
Yeah,
I am back in America. I'm not living in Haiti, and how do I move forward with the church, with everything? And God opened up to me, live an eternal life. So in America, or even in our society, we think about Christianity as day to day, but God sees it as eternity.
Yeah.
So we live for eternity every single day as a believer. And the same thing with the Haitians and stuff like that. So I think the reason that God has really called us into the missions, or even every day when we go talk to our youth, or we go to the food line, or wherever you're at, wherever you're walking today, or, running the, post office route, or however that looks, whatever your daily life looks, you need to look at it as an eternal perspective, that it's that whatever that moment you're in impacts your eternity and the person you're talking to.
Yeah.
So if we have that perspective, then how can we stop?
Yeah.
Luke 9 and 10, it says that the harvest is great. So let me tell you what, there's work.
Yeah.
Jesus tells us there's work out there, but the harvesters are few.
Yeah.
So we have to have an intentional harvesting mindset. And by doing that, by God of revealing like the eternal mindset, the harvest part's been easy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because all I think about is eternity. So, fundraising, or giving my money when I don't have any, or just being a youth pastor, or, dealing with it, the stuff we do here. We do a lot here as well in America, and throughout the Outer Banks in our community. And, it's because we have an eternal mindset, Roxanne and I do.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's really my passion behind ministry in general.
Yeah.
It's how do I impact the life for internally? So it's not just today, but how do we get to the glory together? And what does that look like? You know, I'm like a Revelation scholar. Like, I love Revelation.
Me too.
It's my favorite book.
Yeah.
I'm actually studying it again right now.
Yeah.
And that's all it's about. Like, even like I was talking to a guy at work, and they were talking about things that are going on in the world. A lot that you see in Revelation. I told him, I said, guys, like, you guys can do all this stuff, but really the only thing you need to do right now is repent and believe in Jesus.
Yeah.
This is at work, and they just start laughing. I'm like, well, that's the only thing you can do. And I was like, but when tribulation comes, I'm not going to be here anymore.
Yeah.
And I was like, but you have 7 years.
Yeah.
And all I could do is plant a seed right now. I told him this.
Oh, wow.
And if we have that in perspective that, hey, I can't save you, but Jesus can, and I could plant a seed today, like you were saying, sprinkle something out there. If I could just plant this little baby seed, well, something can impact you for Christ. It's 6 years from now, or maybe even the 7 years of Jesus returns. I don't know.
Yeah.
But, and you think back like, oh, Seth told me to repent and believe in Jesus. Well, I didn't tell you. The Holy Spirit told you.
Right.
But you'll figure that out. But we have to have an eternal perspective as believers. And that's how I get through everyday life. Because if I didn't, I'd probably just be like miserable. I'd be like, oh, the world's coming to an end. I don't know.
Yeah, I get
Not
it.
really. But
no, I know what you're saying.
Yeah. So that's kind of helped me come back to America and still work. Because a lot of people come back from a country like that and have a hard time with getting back into the church and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But we have to impact where we're walking today as well.
Yeah.
So
it amazes me, listening to what you guys are saying, the impact that's been made on your life, and then sort of this infectiousness that you're taking around the world by affecting these people. You've gone to Kenya, you've gone to Haiti and stuff, but you're like focused on that. But do you guys ever like look back and man, so we've got a couple of, we got Google photos and Amazon photos and all those things. And you ever like look through the photos from like years ago, and you're like, who is that person? Like, it's crazy. Like, it's like you're like in an alternate timeline or something. Like, you know what I mean?
And even in this podcast, like how we started our relationship together, like get kicked out of college, and I was partying, and a girl walked in playing a country song.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? 13 years later, I'm on a podcast talking about Christ.
Yeah.
It's definitely that way. I don't cry. I'm not a crier. I'm like a man.
You're going to do it in a second. I
No,
see it coming.
no, I'm
There's a
not
tear
coming.
right here. Right here.
No. But the other day I was, talking to somebody, about missions.
Mhm.
And then they had well, how's it impacted your life? And I was like, if you guys would have seen me 10 years ago and you see me today, it's a whole different person.
Yeah.
Jesus has really put a movement in my heart and my spirit that I can't explain. And the first thing I always think is why me, God?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But it isn't why me. It's hey, I'm sending you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? God's sending me. Jesus is, I don't really do anything, but just try to listen as best I can.
Right.
And I was making that statement I make to our youth all the time. Just take that next step.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Don't go running down the road. Just take the first step, and then the first step, and then the next step. And then eventually you'll be moving through this life with Jesus, and you're man, this is fun and crazy.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, definitely look back on the photos and it's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think?
No, it is cool. I love to look back, and so I love to journal every time we go on a trip.
Yeah.
So I do it every day, and I write down every single thing that we did, where we went, who we met, or what we ate, who did the lesson, what the lesson was on, what we talked about at devotions, what song we sang.
Mm-hmm.
And so I love to go back and read them and be oh my gosh, I forgot that we went there and we met this person, or this is when we met that person, and then look back at the pictures. And then I was saying, you start to recognize the kids and remember who they are, but then to look back and be oh my gosh, look at how little they were. So it's so cool. I've always taken a million pictures. And I have them all in this is Haiti 2022.
Yeah.
Have them all separated so I can remember what was from what.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's crazy those relationships that you guys have created. Now, I don't want to take it down. I don't want to make it dark, but you did mention that you had some people that that passed away. Is that right?
In Haiti?
Yeah.
Yeah. We so the elderly care home, it's an end of life care.
Oh man.
So they have them to the end of life, most of them, and so yeah, we have some people we know that passed away.
I just bummed you out, didn't I?
No,
I'm sorry.
No.
I don't really get bummed because I know they were believers.
Yeah.
They're in glory right now, living a awesome life. Great men of God and women. Our first trip, actually, we went to a funeral, which is a funny story. I mean, Haitian funerals are a celebration. They're not sad. I mean, they are because someone passed away, but they are a celebration of life.
Yeah.
And so it was a really cool experience. But we've had Low Boss. He just passed away when we were there this past time. This guy, his name's actually Boss, but the whole time I met him, I thought he was just the boss of the construction guys. So I thought that was just what we called him,
right.
boss. And he's Seth Kai Construction. I'm no Kai Construction. Because he always construction in Haiti is hard, and he would always me and my buddy Josh, he's always you guys coming to do construction? We're no, boss, but we always did.
Yeah. And
you didn't really have a choice. He was the boss. Well, yeah, he just passed away, man. That was a hard one on me. Yeah. Just because, he was a healthy man and a man of God, and just we sweated together, we blended together, and, just talked and goofed around and been men together. And then we saw him, not even exactly sure. Like I said, the medical care in Haiti is not very well, but we just saw him last year, and we noticed his weight was down, and he was a healthier Haitian. And we were boss, what's going on? And the doctors, we sent him to the doctors, and they didn't, whatever, they didn't give us a real good answer. And then he passed away. Just and I'm just man, in America, I you got to go down that missionary American mindset. In America, you'd be fine. What? And you can't let your mind go down that road, because he's a Haitian man, and he impacted that community. He had a huge impact, and his time with serving Jesus was up, and he went to heaven, and that's the impact you have to have. It's not, of course, in America, he probably would have got on some diabetes pills or whatever it was, but that's not an option there. So we did just lose boss. That was a hard one on me. We went to his funeral when we were just there. Mm-hmm. But yeah, you make really close relationships with these people. And Gary's wife, the director of Haiti, she passed away. And that was a really tough one on the whole community. And so, yeah, death is a big part of the Haitian culture. It's kind of, I don't want to say like no death is normal, but it's just there, you know.
I gotta be honest. I kind of wish our culture had more of that. I mean, that probably sounds weird for me to say, and I probably didn't explain it very well. So I'm probably like, yeah, I think more people should die. No, that's not what I'm talking about. What I'm saying is like that respect. You know what I mean? Like that. I just feel like it's a bit more healthy than the relationship. You go to a funeral here, and it just seems just like dreadful almost.
Yeah,
you know, and we can say all day long that it's a celebration of people's life, but I mean, you know, when you're there, most funerals I've been to, it doesn't really feel like that.
Yeah. Totally. I tell Roxanne all the time, if I die before you, I want a Haitian funeral.
Yeah,
there's disco balls at every one of them. What? Dead serious, bro. And I want one.
That's got me written all over it. Yeah,
the music's good. There's a band. There's dancing. I'm serious. There's right. You do a walk. I mean. Yes, it's sad, you know, and especially for the widows. Like boss had a wife and kids and stuff, and yeah, but it is a celebration. It's kind of fun. I enjoy it. I'm having a Haitian funeral.
Yeah,
that's it. That's how we're doing this
for sure. Man. With that being said, how does your trips that you've gone down there? How do they affect your life back here? I mean, do you guys? I know. Obviously, you probably live differently, but I mean, have you brought any of that culture back here to America, or like?
Well, Roxanne no longer has any purses.
I know.
You can explain that one.
I know. So I love like expensive bags.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, everybody's got a thing. Everybody's got a thing.
Yeah. And like not saying that you can't have nice things.
I get it.
But because I still have nice bags. But I came home and I was like, I don't need any of this. I'm getting rid of everything. And like I went through my closet. I got rid of like shoes and clothes, and then like just like was like, we don't need any of this. And then like I don't know, we went somewhere a month later and I'm like, have you seen my black shoes anywhere?
Like
he's like, yeah, you got rid of them. I was like, oh man.
Oh man.
Oh yeah. So we went through like a weird our first time going, and we're going to take a team soon. And the one thing I'll explain to everybody, everyone's going to ask a lot of questions about when we're there, and I'll try to answer that. Hey, we need to talk about when you get back.
Yeah,
coming back is hard. It's hard, right? Man. Like your first trip. I mean, it's a culture shock. You've never. I mean, unless you've been to, you know, a country that poor, you don't know what to expect when you come back. And when you walk into Atlanta airport or whatever, you're like, what?
Even
and you were only there for a week.
Yeah, even now, knowing what to expect there and then what to expect when you come home, it's still like walking into the grocery store for the first time. It's like, wow, all of these options.
Yeah.
Like, so what in the world?
We've definitely brought some stuff back. I mean, I don't know. Like I said, that eternal perspective, you know, like our jobs, they matter. But as long as they're glorifying God, does our money glorify God? Everything went to like, how can we be more strategic? You know what I mean? Like, hey, they live a prosperous life. If you just look at their life, like just because it looks different, it looks broken, doesn't mean it's not prosperous. Maybe in America's point of view, it's not prosperous, but I think it's prosperous. They have clothes on their back and food in their belly and a shelter. Yeah. You know, like and Jesus all like promises these things. You know, so yeah, we've been affected. I will say, like cars, money. We just changed our whole perspective. It changed our entire life.
Yeah.
So culturally, things we bring back is between her and I, we reread the Bible to people.
Yeah.
I know that sounds funny, but you know, in America we have sermon series. We have, you know, and there's nothing wrong with this, you know, and we have all these things and stuff. And one thing I learned there, that sometimes you just need to open the Bible and read it, and Jesus will do the rest.
Yeah.
The Holy Spirit will do the rest. So a big thing for us when we came back is we just started doing Bible studies. Like we didn't have to make this big thing. We didn't have to make it a production. You know, that's something culturally we definitely brought back. And not saying that doesn't happen in America. It just seems like, you know, you got to watch a podcast. Just kidding. But or you watch a video and then talk about the video. Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with that. We still do that sometimes, but us personally, it's hey, let's open up the word and then pray about it before we read it.
Yeah. And
let God literally reveal what he wants to reveal to us or to whoever we have in our house or, you know, youth group and stuff like that. We read the Bible. That's something culturally we brought back, you know, because they don't really have any, they can't really do production stuff. So they read the Bible. Mm-hmm. What else do you think?
We definitely don't waste food.
Yeah.
Hey.
I know that sounds so like cliche, but I can't stand to throw away food. And I'm not saying that everybody throws away food or whatever, but it just like breaks my heart knowing that somebody else that I know tonight is probably not going to have any food today.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I'm going to throw away like 5 chicken nuggets because I only wanted 3, you know, like, and it sounds so silly, but it's so true. I mean, we know so many people that could be going to bed hungry tonight and or like overbuying stuff, you know, whether it be food or material things.
Yeah.
It's so hard. Like, I don't need it.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. You know, we have such a problem with food availability in this country.
Yes.
And even now, just saying food availability, it's like in my head, I was like, that's a joke. That's a joke talking to you guys. Like, yeah.
It's real. You know, Roxanne mentioned, you know, kids are going to go without food tonight. And in Haitian culture, that's actually pretty normal. So the school sponsorship is such a big deal because that's usually their only meal of the day. They get a huge lunch, like it's just rice, but it's a mound of rice and bean. It's like a bean sauce.
Yeah.
Really good, but it's huge. And usually either they'll eat all of it because that's all they're going to eat, or they'll like save a little bit and take it home to their family and maybe their other brothers and sisters that aren't in school.
Yeah.
But so, yeah, we all know, you know, 100 kids tonight that might not eat. So food to us became a huge thing. I mean, just how we look at food, right? And how our perspective on food, which sounds so funny, and that's some of the stuff I was talking about earlier. When you go with us, or if you ever go to Haiti, make sure you talk to somebody about coming back.
Yeah.
Because the first thing you do is you're like, I can't believe people are not eating tonight. Like, yeah, but you are blessed. Like, we do live in America. We are blessed. So I think it just makes you, if you take the right heart to it, it makes you respect everything a little bit more and just know, hey, you're blessed. Like, we have heaters and ACs going in our house right now and food on our table. And I haven't been to the grocery store in a week, but I know there's food at home.
So, yeah. So the first time you guys came back, did you have like missionary anxiety or anything like that?
Oh yeah, man. It was
I think
bad.
I hated everyone.
Yeah.
So I guess one of the things that I always say is, so as Americans, you can have anything you want. Right. Like you can
Amazon.
Amazon Prime. I can get it in 2 days. Yeah. Or like
a bank loan.
Like I can go to school. I can get a job. I can buy a house. I can buy a car. Pretty much almost anything that you want. Like as far as like what kind of car, what kind of house you want or whatever. Yeah. And it's like, yes, we want things, but like you could have those here in America. Yeah. Like it's not like only some people can have it.
Right.
And I feel like Americans, they hold their value and their faith so much into things because we can have whatever we want.
Yeah.
Where you see the people in Haiti and they do have food. Like, you know, the Lord blesses them. And it's crazy. Like the things that they find their faith in is God.
Yeah.
And where we find our faith in like what we're going to buy off of Amazon or expensive purses or we're going to eat 4 times today because we can, and we can just go out to dinner because we don't feel like cooking dinner. And like, I don't know. I feel like people are so humble in Haiti. I feel like I want to just grab a hold of that and just bring it home with me too.
Yeah.
Because you don't need all of this stuff. Like they are like their faith is so strong in the Lord. I'm like, gosh, like that's so awesome.
I remember the first time we were there and I heard a little kid say, thank you, Jay-Z is how you say Jesus in Creole, which is funny, dude.
Yeah, that is kind of funny.
The first time we went to church and this pastor was, oh man, Jay-Z, bonne bene nous, oh man, Jay-Z. I was like, are they worshiping Jay-Z?
I know.
You know, like we didn't know what to expect. So yeah, Jay-Z. But I remember this little kid was praying or just talking and he was like, amen, Jay-Z, you know, merci for this manna. Yeah. I said, manna, like this isn't manna, this is rice. But they know the Bible, and they know God provided. You know, hey, thanks for providing this manna, this food today, because I didn't work for it. I don't know how I was going to eat, but you provided. And that's a humbling experience the first time you see that. So definitely brought that back home, like being just humbled about what God's blessed us with. And I'm not ashamed of anything God's blessed us with, and no one out there should be. Like, that's why we say you got to be prepared to come home, like, or you will purge your house, and you will like freak out every night about how like I'm eating this great chicken, but you know I don't even know if my brothers and sisters are getting food tonight.
Yeah.
So I always pointed back to like we are blessed, and make sure that you're giving that glory to God. You know what I mean? And like daily, every time I eat or every time I think about Haiti, that's like the first thing I think about is how blessed I am.
Yeah.
Beyond measure. We are the richest society in the world. Like in the most of the world, I'm considered rich.
Yeah.
My salary and I'm rich, and that's a blessing.
Yeah.
I'm not mad about it. Like that first time we came back though, we were like, oh my gosh, like we don't need to make this much money. Like I remember saying that, like, I don't need to make this much money. Well, that's a wrong perspective because God allowed that to happen.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like, that's allowing us to we give monthly to Haiti. We give monthly to our brothers and sisters. Well, without the blessing of my job, I'm not able to do that. So
yeah,
that first time you come home is you're shook.
Yeah, I think I think you were just saying that, and like there's like a little rough patch area out in Montrouis that doesn't have any cell phone signal, and I was like, "Come on, Verizon,"
Yeah.
And now you're saying this, and I'm like oh, what am I doing with my life?
Put it in perspective.
Well, that's crazy, man. So, what do you guys need? I mean, obviously, I'm sure donations would help, but I mean, what exactly do you guys need for Haiti? How can people help you?
So
help me help you.
Well, I will say, so Supply and Multiply needs a truck.
Yeah,
okay.
We've been tasked to find a truck.
Yes, and we've been praying about it, and all the ones that are affordable that we find are a complete bust.
Oh yeah,
like this would not last 2 seconds on a road in Haiti. So the roads it's all like dirt, rocky, rough roads. We drive up into the mountains; those are even more rough. So they really need a truck. The one that they have now is like a 90-something Dodge Dakota that they don't make anymore.
So we can't find parts.
So, and if you take parts, they need to be new parts. So to find new parts on a car made in the 90s is not going to work.
Yeah.
So, but not only that, the truck keeps breaking down.
Yeah.
And if it breaks down, that means that we're not getting to some of the places that we take food to people. And so it's difficult. And then, so now how are we going to get it to them? We got to get it to them, So just makes it a little bit difficult. So we really need a truck.
Okay.
It doesn't have to be a 2022 Ford F-150 diesel.
Don't limit yourself, Roxanne.
Like, yeah,
Roxanne.
Yourself. You don't know what God's doing.
I'm going to go ahead and tweet at Chevrolet real quick.
Yes. Yeah. If we could get,
yeah, right.
Yeah, it's, we've been, we kind of tasked ourselves with it, but we noticed about 6 months ago that we needed a truck. And then talking to Chris, our good friend that, started Supply and Multiply, good friend of ours, kind of my mentor. He was like, hey guys, can you guys get us a truck? And we're like, yeah, we'll figure it out, man. Let's just do it. And so we've been working on it for about 6 months, just trying to talk it out, like figure it out, pray about it. Like what kind of truck, what's the best parts in Haiti? And so a truck is like the big priority right now for our group of friends. Like I said, there's like a core group that go a lot, and that is it, a truck. We have a lot of, that's how we get our food donations to people. Mm-hmm. So without that, when it's broke down, it just makes everything way more difficult.
Yeah.
So if we want to be specific about a truck, a Nissan Frontier would be amazing because they are easy to work on and it's easy for them to get parts there.
Yeah.
And I think also a Tacoma.
Yeah.
Toyota Tacoma would be good. Anything Toyota would be good too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just as far as like getting parts there. Yeah. And we know that it can get the job done too.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, you never know. I've seen some crazy things happen.
Yeah.
Some crazy things happen.
Yeah. And if you have a Nissan Frontier and you just feel led to get rid of it, my number is.
Yeah, right. Right. All right. Well, here's a segue. So how can people contact you? I know you said you don't really do social media, but do you have social media?
Yeah, we do. Yeah.
Do you want the hundreds of followers that might come?
Sure.
Yeah. I'll take them on.
How can people get in touch with you, and how can people find out more about your ministry?
So Facebook, Roxanne Brown, and I'm on Instagram. So is Seth. Supply and Multiply also has Facebook and Instagram too.
Okay.
So you can follow them. They have their website link on both of their pages.
Okay.
And Chris Serber is the one that manages all of it. So if you message them, it's going straight to Chris.
Okay.
Yeah.
He's really cool. He'll talk back.
Guy.
He's awesome.
He's a ex-Marine, or I guess you're always a Marine, but great guy, man. Awesome dude to talk to.
Awesome.
And same with me. I'm on Facebook and Instagram.
Okay.
Just hit me up.
What are your @ names on Instagram?
Roxanne B7.
Roxanne B7.
I knew he was going to ask this.
Oh, you don't even remember it?
I know it's set
For
around
shame.
8181, but there's some line in there. I'm really bad about this.
No worries. Well, Misfits, we'll put all that stuff down in the show notes down below, and definitely go check them out. You know what to do. So we're winding it down towards the end a little bit, and at the end of every episode, I ask every guest. I'm gonna ask both of y'all.
Oh,
So it's one question and two parts. So what was the last goal that you completed, and what's the next goal that you want to set for yourself?
All right. So we were actually talking about this in the car. So I had a personal goal. I was like, I want to be in Haiti at least once a year.
Right.
Like, not just once a year. Like, I want to step foot in the country in 2018 and 2019 and 2020.
Yeah.
So far we've done that.
Yeah.
And I know it sounds kind of silly, and I want to go more than once a year, but that was my goal and we've accomplished it so far.
Yeah. On point.
what's your next goal?
What's your next goal?
Oh my gosh.
Putting
I
on
don't
the
know.
spot.
That's
So-
the one everybody pauses
Yeah.
for.
I know. I'm like, gosh, so many things. So we would love to do a vision trip with Coastal Family Church, hopefully in the fall.
Okay.
So just no more than 10 people. Just keep it small, especially it'll be the first time we lead a team by ourselves. We've always been on a team, but we've never led one. So 10 people would be, I think, enough people to rally around. But
Yeah.
so that would be cool because then it gives us a time to not try out leadership, but be the first time a leader on a trip. We've never done that before. So it'll
Right.
look completely different from any other trip.
Yeah.
I think it would prepare us too for if we are there for full time, taking people and being like, here, this is what we do every day. Let me explain it to you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that would be a goal, a vision trip this year with
Awesome.
Coastal.
Now
yeah.
you guys have taken people from here before though, correct?
Just Carson.
Just Carson.
Carson?
Yeah.
Okay.
And we've been working on the language, so that is why I haven't been comfortable enough taking a team, but
Yeah.
Okay.
I have been working on the language very hard in the past couple months. So
It sounds French. Is it French?
it's like French, Spanish, and English all mixed into one. It's
But
Creole.
you said it's Creole.
Yeah, Haitian Creole is what they call it. And
Is it like the same as like Louisiana Creole or no?
no.
No. Will
No.
they hate on? Are people in Haiti right now like, I can't stand this guy?
Yeah, they're like, what's Haitian, like Louisiana Creole? They won't know what that means.
Yeah.
They're like, what? But yeah, it's actually not. I've been picking up on it. Not gonna get Roxanne going. But
I
Yeah.
know.
So by the time we take the team, I probably won't be fluent yet, but I'll at least get through some things. So, sans passe, Wendy. I just said, "What's up, Wendy?" to one of our youth kids that we talk to there a lot.
Awesome.
But yeah, I would say one of my goals that we've accomplished is, just taking that first step. I think just to see where our life has gone with the youth. That was a goal of mine, is become a youth pastor.
Yeah.
And in the last 2 years, it's happened. And just to see the fruit of that, we started with 4 youth and we're up to 20, 25.
Yeah.
And it's nothing but God. There's
Yeah.
so many God moments in the youth ministry, and just pray for our youth in America. It's a big heart of mine. I know we came here to talk about missions, but I could talk just as much about the youth and and around the world, but specifically our youth, and just pray for them. They're living a different generation these days.
Dude, I get it.
I did not grow up with social media,
Yeah.
and they do.
Yeah,
So,
it's crazy, the impact and everything. I've been thinking about that a lot. So like my son Monroe, he's 2 years old.
yeah,
And I mean, his life is going to be so much dramatically different.
Yep.
The stuff that he, not just like the issues, but like the stuff that he sees. Like
yeah.
I started getting convicted watching the Marvel movies. I'm like, dang it. I love the Marvel movies.
You're like, dang it, I can't even enjoy these.
I can't. What is this?
Oh, I know, man. And they live a different world, and I don't try to necessarily understand. I just try to guide them. And it's just been a big goal of mine to become a youth pastor in general. And
Yeah.
we're doing it, and I love it. I just love it. So that was a big accomplishment. And then I would say my future goal, and I'm not going to plug anything because I haven't started. I've only put outlines out, but 15 Seconds of Awkward. God gave me a book to write when we were in Haiti one time.
There it is.
Yeah, it called 15 Seconds of Awkward. I believe that if you have I don't believe in what is the word now? I just went blank. But it's just you have 15 seconds to make an impact for Christ.
Yeah.
You can impact Christ with walking up to somebody in 15 seconds. And that's all you need.
Yeah.
And it's something that I put on that's what it is. I don't believe in divine appointments. I believe all is divine appointments. And if you just take 15 seconds to think, hey, this is a divine appointment, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
And so God put it on my heart. And then all these young adults we were with in Haiti at the time were like, oh, you got to write a book. And I'm like, I'm just talking about this. They're like, dude, this is a book.
Yeah.
So then I started praying about it. And then like a couple months later, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm writing. You know what I mean? And so I've been writing for a little bit, not nowhere close. But by the time I'm 40, I feel like God's told me I'm going to have a book written and we'll be full-time missionaries.
Awesome.
So
man.
those are big goals, but we're believing in them in faith that we'll be full-time missionaries in Haiti by the time we're 40. And that's a big goal of ours.
Yeah, totally attainable. I totally see it. I mean, with you guys' passion too, you can tell it's what you guys, it comes through.
Yeah.
With what you're saying, I can see that's what you're about. You know what I mean? So that's awesome, man. I'm excited for you. I'm excited to see where it goes.
That's awesome.
So,
Man.
well, I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this guy up. We've been talking for a while now. I appreciate your time. I appreciate you guys coming on. It's been a lot of fun. And Misfits, like I said, I will put all of that information down in the show notes down below. So if you want to help with a truck or if you want to help with anything, I mean, definitely go check these guys out. I really appreciate you guys' time.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming on.
It was awesome.
Yeah, man. Well, you guys have a good evening. I'm going to talk to you later. All right. Well, Misfits, we did it. That's our episode. I want to thank you so much for listening, and thanks again to our sponsors. If you want to find more information about any of our sponsors, there are affiliate links in the sponsors tab of our website over at www.misfit-heroes.com. You can also find information about all of our social media there, so be sure to follow us for immediate up-to-date information about the podcast. Please, Misfits, if you like this episode at all, do me a favor. Hit the subscribe button down below so you're notified of new episodes as they're released, and be sure to leave a rating or review of our podcast on Apple Podcasts and YouTube. Truly, Misfits, I love you. Thank you so much for listening. And until next time, be kind, love one another, and be a hero.